And hello, and welcome to this online video, AM language. And in this video, we are going to interviewing skills, in particular when it comes to speaking. Now, this video is for all levels. So if you want to ask a question, you can do. I am going to speak at this speed. So low levels can understand me, but of course, the higher levels can also understand me. Rosa, hello. Nadia, hello. Good afternoon. Nice emoji. I see you must be enjoying the lovely sunshine. And Maria, hello. Good afternoon to you too. Another sunshine there. I hope you are indeed enjoying the sun in some way today. It's a very nice day actually. So this is going to be a 45-minute video. So apologies, I'm sorry, I am 5 minutes late. So this video is going to be about job interviews and speaking skills that you can develop to help yourself prepare for a job interview in English. Marcella, hello, good afternoon. Eva Petrova, hi, Eva, lovely to see you here. Jorge, thank you very much. Hello, good afternoon. Hareo, hello, lovely to see you here. So let's begin. So when going into an interview in English, hello, Katerina. Thank you very much for joining us. Good afternoon. When going into a job interview in English, obviously, you probably will feel a little bit nervous, maybe a bit uncomfortable, and you might worry about your English. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is this. The clarity of your communication, so how clearly you speak, is the most important thing. As long as you can make yourself understood, you're doing a good job. And if that means you need to use simpler English rather than more complicated English, that is okay. So that's the first thing. If you're not sure, keep it simple. Don't worry about using simple, present simple or past simple. That is fine. The important thing is, can you make yourself understood? So that is the first and foremost. In order to do this, I would say any answers you think you might get that you can prepare for, obviously prepare for in your spare time before. That way it gives you a chance to try and think of how you are going to say what you are going to say. And if you need to translate anything from your first language, you can do so because you have time to think. But in the actual interview itself, it's very important you try to think in English. If you think in English, it will help your communication in terms of your fluency, how you speak. So this is, instead of stop, start, stop, start, stop, start, your speech will be more fluent between ideas. So the first thing I can teach you is, what phrases can you use that can give you yourself time to think? Now, these phrases are going to be important. If you know these phrases, it means that while you say the phrase, it gives you time to think of your answer. So first of all, we'll look at that, the phrases you can use to give yourself time to think. And at the same time, we will think of the most common type of questions you might be asked. So, for example, other than the obvious, such as well, they might already know your name because of your resume, your CV. So, for instance, Katerina, you might come along for a job interview, and after the normal introduction, the first question might be, for instance, what were your, now let's look at the paraphrasing of this question. What were your responsibilities in your last job? Now, they can also ask this question in this way. What did you do in your last job? Okay, so we've got this past simple question. What were your responsibilities in your last job? Or what did you do in your last job? Now, this is a question you can probably prepare for, but maybe you want to give yourself time to think. So, to give yourself time to think, the first phrase that you can use is short, but it gives you enough time just to think. So, option one. The first phrase you could use is, that's an interesting question. In my last job, my responsibilities were. So, what are we doing? This phrase, that's an interesting question. First thing is, we need to say this slowly. We want to stretch out the words. So, that's an interesting question. That's an interesting question. So there are two words you need to stress. Interesting and question. That's an interesting question. My responsibilities were. So, hello, Joanna. Thank you very much for joining. So this short little phrase that might take 4 seconds, it gives you 4 important seconds just to digest and think of the question that you have been asked and how you're going to respond. Now, maybe you don't want to go with that. Maybe you think, that's not an interesting question, though. What other phrases can I use? Okay, so the next phrase is, just to remind ourselves, what did you do in your last job? Let's go with, okay, so I've just written something here. I'm going to put a line down the middle of this one because you can break this up into 2. First of all, you can start off by saying, it might be a good idea just to give the person an idea of whether you liked your job. So you can start off by saying, I have to say that I enjoyed my last job. Actually, let me rewrite this because I put the breaker in the wrong place. So, okay, right. So let's go like this. That's a little bit better. So, I have to say I enjoyed my last job and my responsibilities were. Option 2, I had several responsibilities. I had several responsibilities. Or you can put both together. I have to say that I enjoyed my last job and I had several responsibilities. Now, just to remind you, several is when the several means more than two. Anything more than two. What does this mean? Well, the mistake might be to go straight in with the answer. So, what did you do in your last job? I did this, I did that, I did this, I did that. No, there isn't. It's very what we would call it's too direct. What you do want to do is show the ability to what we would call guide someone into your answer. It's like taking someone's hand and showing them the way. You need to show the person the way to your answer. So in this way, you have these phrases, these two phrases that you can combine. I have to say that I enjoyed my last job. My responsibilities were X, Y, and Z. You can also say, I had several responsibilities and they were X, Y, and Z. Or you can combine the two and go with, I have to say that I enjoyed my last job and I had several responsibilities. So by using any one of these three phrases or a combination of the three gives you a nice introduction into your answer. It gives you an important amount of time to actually think of your answer. Now, some answers are easier than others, but when answering a question, try and remember you want to guide the person into your answer. Okay? So we've now looked at the first obvious question that you might get that you might get. So let's say now the next question is, can you give me a brief idea of your educational history? Okay. So, can you give me a brief idea of your educational history? Now, another way the person can ask this question is, can you give me a short idea of your educational past? Can you give me a short idea of your educational past? Now, this might be relevant if you recently did a course, such as an English language course, a university course, a master's, whatever it may be. Again, there's a lot to go on here. You might be thinking, okay, I need to use the past simple. I might need to use the present perfect. I might need to use the past perfect. You might be thinking, what grammar do I use? Okay, simply done. All you need to do is, first of all, acknowledge that the person is asking you about your educational history. So this is going to be in the past. You can use the present perfect just to explain the qualifications that you have done, but most of your answer is going to have to be in the past. If you're not sure, stick to the past simple. You don't need to make this complicated. But how do you give yourself thinking time? Well, again, you don't need to play around too much. Okay. You can simply put, let's say, because now they want a short explanation. Okay. So you can say. Now, if you want to be really quick, let's say you are very confident of your answer, you can simply start off with the adverb briefly. Briefly means in short, okay, or short. Yes, in short, okay. This does not give you a lot of thinking time, but you would use this if you are very confident of what your answer is going to be already. So you could say, so the question, can you give me a brief idea of your educational history? Briefly, I recently went to Malta to study English, and so on and so forth. Now, let's say you need more thinking time. You could go in this phrase. First one. Let's go with, yeah. 1 minute. I'm just typing this out. I'm just trying to think of my wording. There we go. I got there in the end. First of all, you can always say thank you for asking. That's always a good idea. Then we have this phrase, and this is actually a Shakespearean phrase that we still use today. The long and short of it. The long and short of it simply means the long and short of it simply means shortly put, okay, or quickly said. It means you're not going to give them a long, uh, huge amount of information. It means you're going to answer their question, you're going to give them the most important information, and you are going to be, and you will, you are not going to talk for too long either. You're just going to get straight to the point. You'll explain the most important detail, and you've given yourself time to think. Now, this is a really good phrase to use in other situations. It's usually when there's a bit of history. There's quite a lot of events to talk about. There's a lot of things that happened, and as the more experience you have, the more qualifications, the more type of job roles you've had, the more you've done. So how can we say this? This is what I would recommend going with. First of all, thank you for asking. That's always a good way to start off your answer. Followed by, the long and short of it is that I qualified in engineering, and I've had several jobs since then, the most recent of which, now this is the next thing actually I want to talk to you about. When you give your history, by all means, you could argue the two most important things you need to probably say is, one, what the most important qualification you have that is relevant to the job. And two, your most recent job, especially if it is relevant. So that's the most important thing. When you give an example of your history, give the most important qualification and give your most recent job experience that is related to your job. And that is how you can go about explaining the long and short of it. So, what can you give me a short idea of your educational past? The long and short of it is that I studied I studied engineering at university, and I went on to do several jobs. I gained more qualifications, and my most recent job was as an engineer managing assistant or something like that. This is the other thing. Don't be afraid to expand on your answer. So let's say the person asks you about your educational history. You can talk about the most important bits of your educational history, but don't forget, link it back to your work experience, because that would be the next question, your work experience. So try and sometimes anticipate what the next question is going to be by trying to answer it as well in some sort of way. That way you get to do a little bit more talking, and you can actually control the direction of the conversation by saying, look, I know you've asked me about my education. So you then answer that question, but then you make it relevant to the work experience you've had. You take control of the conversation. You can direct where you want the conversation to go. Now, what if you are asked a question that you have never thought of answering before? What we would say, you have no idea. You are not sure how to answer it. You are not sure about the grammar you need to use, and you start thinking in your own language. And then you can't remember how to word your answer in English. What can we do? Well, if you are asked a question that you have not thought of, I would strongly recommend you go for this phrase to give yourself some thinking time. Now, this is quite long. If you remember this, it's long enough to give you the thinking time you need. So let's say the question is a question that you really have never thought of before. You don't know where to begin. This is a combination of different phrases that you can put together. The more of these phrases you put together, the more thinking time you have. So you're asked a question. You have no idea how to answer. So you can say the following. Well, that is an interesting question. I haven't ever really thought of it before, but I suppose thinking about it, I would say. Now, I can tell you that just now, that took just over, that took about 10 to 15 seconds for me to say. And that's sometimes what you need. You sometimes need 10 to 15 seconds to think of your answer, especially if you don't know what to answer. You will notice that I say it slowly, and that is important. Say it slowly. Give your time to think. Give yourself time to think. So listen to it again. Well, that is an interesting question. I haven't ever really thought about it. Sorry, I haven't really thought of it before. But I suppose thinking about it, I would say. So you see how long it takes? It takes a little bit of time to actually say. It's simple English. It's not difficult. But this is put everything together. It becomes about 3 to 4 phrases long that gives yourself time to think of your answer. And this is why I would now encourage you all to try and record yourself saying these answers, giving yourself, actually timing yourself. Listen to yourself. How quickly do you speak? How clearly do you speak? Are you giving yourself enough thinking time? So we're now going to play a little game. Now, unfortunately, you cannot speak. But what you can do is interact in the live chat section. So I'm going to ask a question, and I would like all of you to try and answer the question. But before you answer the question, try to use one of the phrases that we have looked at today. Okay? Try and use some of them. The more difficult the question, the more linking phrases you're going to need. So I am now going to ask you guys 3 questions, one at a time, and I will look at your answers. What I would like you to do is make sure you use this linking, these phrases that can give you your time, that can give you the time you need to think. Okay, so the first question that I'm going to ask you guys is this. Okay, so I've gone for this question, and let's see what you guys answer. Think about it, and then try and think of the phrase you are going to use to start off by answering this question. So, the job interview question is, can you tell me what is the best job you have ever had? Can you tell me what is the best job you have ever had? You'll notice that this is a present perfect question, so you need to think of your answer. You can start off with the present perfect, and then you'll have to explain the job with a past simple. So I'm going to give you, let's see who comes up first with their answer. Try and pick one. Try and pick one of the phrases that could give you time to think of your answer. It's not necessarily the easiest question to answer either. It can be a bit difficult, but let's see what you guys come up with. I'm sure you guys have had some interesting jobs as well that you've enjoyed over the years. So let's see. I would say, by the way, if someone were to ask me this, what is the best job you have ever had? I think it's probably the job I have now. I think that's probably the best job I've ever had, to be honest. I can think of my worst job as well. I remember briefly. Oh, that's another one, actually. I remember briefly. You can always do that. That just came to me now, actually. Yeah, if you're talking about a job in the past, for instance, you can always go in with, I remember briefly. If it's a short period of time, there's always that option. But I think the worst job I ever had was, when would that have been? I think it's coming up to about 10 or 9 years ago, I think. About 9 years ago, I lived in Edinburgh in Scotland. It was shortly after university, and I worked as a sommelier, so a wine waiter. And I did not last long. I think I lasted maybe 3 weeks. I wasn't great at the job, if I'm being totally honest. Um, I wasn't good at waitering shortly after university. I mean, I knew my wine quite well. I still do, but I wasn't great at carrying a tray with glasses. I remember I fell down the stairs and spilled everything on me, and no, I got a lot of things wrong. I learned a lot from that job, actually, but I think that would probably be the worst job I've ever had. So we're still waiting for the first person to try and answer the question. Can you tell me what is the best job you have ever had? It might be a little bit difficult. I think one of the most important things about work is the people. If you have a good relationship with people at work, then work is more enjoyable. So, Andres, thank you very much for your answer. Let's see. Oh, okay, nice. I haven't thought about it, Richard. I suppose, thinking about it, I would say that I enjoyed my last job as a national engineer manager for CSS in Colombia. I had the opportunity to meet and work with a lot of people. Well, Andres, if that is your answer in a job interview, perfect. Excellent. Well done. That is a superb answer. Now, superb simply means excellent, but that's a really good answer. You went in with some linking phrases, some phrases to give yourself time to think, and it gave you enough time to then actually think of your answer. So well done. That's an excellent answer. Maria, well, I had had the best when I was younger. When I was younger, 7 years ago. How beautician, because I had gotten all benefits. The company is famous in all the world, but Marco Aldani started in Spain. Oh, right. Yes, you did forget job. I would probably, yeah, the best job. Don't forget job. Now, in terms of answering the question, well done, Maria. You answered the question. Can I follow what you are saying? Yes. Did you give yourself thinking time? Yes. Is it, if you were to speak it, do I think it would sound fluent? Yes. Are there some mistakes? Yes, but nothing too serious. So well done, Maria. Well done, Maria. I think that is a good answer. And for your level of English, I think that's a very good answer. So well done, Maria. Marcella, that is an interesting question. My best job I have had, it was when I worked in an international company where helping a poor people. Okay, so Marcella, in terms of using the phrase at the beginning to give yourself thinking time, that's a good one to go with. If you focused on fluency here, then I would definitely understand what your answer is and what you are trying to explain. There are one or two maybe grammatical mistakes, but nothing too serious. I can understand your answer. And that is why it's a good answer. So well done there. So far we've had Three different answers of students of different levels, but for their levels, they've done well. They've ticked off the most important boxes I was looking for. One, I could understand their answer. Even if there were some mistakes, I could understand the answer. Two, they did attempt as well to use the right grammar, nonetheless, the right tense, I'm going to say. There might be one or two mistakes grammatically, but overall, the tense that they were trying to use was correct. So well done. And third of all, they used the right linking language to give themselves thinking time. So really well done. I think that's an excellent answer. Right. So let me ask you guys a different question. And this one is more to do with perhaps your current situation. So let's say the question is, why did you decide, meaning choose, in case you're not too sure, why did you decide to learn? Why did you decide to learn English in Malta? Okay, so we've got some more answers. So before I post my next question, let's just see what some of you have said. So Hario, thank you for asking. I have to say that I enjoyed all of my last jobs, but I have been working for 4-5 years in the sales and marketing area of the cochlear implants market in Colombia, and I loved it. Okay, Hario, excellent answer. Can I understand what your answer is? Absolutely. Is there Are there one or two small little mistakes? Yeah, sure, but it doesn't affect the meaning. I can definitely understand what you are saying. Did you use a good phrase at the beginning to give yourself thinking time? Absolutely. So really well done, Halil. If you use that in a job interview, that would be a good idea. I would I would say that's a good answer you could use. Arena, briefly, my best job was marketing social media creativity. Is it not too short? Oh, well, if you are very confident, Irina, of your answer, then no. What I would say is don't say briefly quickly. Don't say briefly, my best job was. Say it slowly. Say at the adverb slowly. So you can go in with briefly, my best job was marketing social media creativity. Creativity. Now you could change that to briefly. My best job was in creativity when I worked in marketing and social media. So by saying it slowly, don't make it too slow, but by saying it slowly, it still gives you time to think, and then it's not too short. Hario, because I enjoyed that, I could change. Okay, so this is a continuation of your previous answer. Because I enjoyed that, I could change the life of hearing. Okay, of people who. What we would say here is Hario is the phrase is hard of hearing. That would be your. That's what we call people hard of hearing. If someone is hard of hearing, it means they are. Yes, they have hearing difficulties. Actually, yeah, I mean it's a polite way of saying someone might be deaf, for example. Nadia, thank you for asking. To be honest, I haven't really thought of it before. Thinking about it, I would say that the best job was when I have worked like a grouper. I have really enjoyed it. Okay, Nadia, I don't know what a croupier is. You'd have to explain to me. I'm sorry, I don't know what a croupier is. Um, but I think most of that sentence was really good. What I would say here is, and I'm just going to bring this up so I can highlight it. Okay. Um, I would say the best job was. Okay, so there you've just used was, past simple. Okay. If you use the past simple, stay in the past simple. You then try to go with a present perfect. Now, standard rule, okay? In the same sentence, it is best not, so try not to make this construction within the same sentence. Okay, so within the same sentence, try not to mix try not to start off in the past simple and then add a present perfect. It's it's not a good idea, and most of the time it's going to be grammatically incorrect. So what I would say is, if you use the past simple there, I would say stick to the past simple. That's the best advice I can give. And when you use I would say, you are setting yourself up to use the past simple as well. I would say, for instance, when you're talking about the past. However, did I understand what you wanted to say? Absolutely. Can I follow? Yes. Did you use the phrase at the beginning to give yourself time? Yes. And I think you did a very good job there. So the last sentence can be changed, but everything else was really good. So a croupier is game presenter in a casino like Dragonara. Okay, excellent. Well done, Nadia. Thank you very much for explaining that to me. So, guys, unfortunately, we're coming to the end of this 45-minute session, but I'm very happy with what you guys have done. Really good work. I think a lot of good stuff here. So you can certainly feel pleased with yourself. I would encourage you to, when trying to develop your speaking skills for job interviews, record yourself. Take time to record yourself. I need water. Record yourself, listen to yourself, and try to make sure that you don't speak too slowly, but make sure you don't speak too quickly. If you speak at the speed that I am speaking at, for example, you'll be in more control of your language, and it will give you time to think. And that would be my advice. Thank you, everyone, for joining in today. And it's so great to see so many people participating in the video. A special thank you to everyone who participated in the live chat. Really well done, and I really enjoyed reading some of your answers. Don't forget to like the video and to share. And I will be back at 4 o'clock with a video on how you can write emails better when trying to write and apply for job interviews. I will be back then at 4 o'clock today. So I will see you guys at 4 o'clock for the writing video. A special thank you, yes, to everyone. And thank you so much for the comments in the live chat section as well. Much appreciated. I will see you guys at 4. Have a lovely afternoon. It's a really sunny day. See you guys later. Thanks so much.